Hello and welcome. You're now listening to the 2028 Podcast, your one-stop hub for getting quality content on becoming the next millionaire investor. Hi, I'm Teasin.
And I'm Vince, and we'll be leading you through our digestible SWOT analysis on complex business operations. And we'll judge whether they'll sink or swim.
Now, between the two of us, we have 10 years of solid business analytical experience, and we want to impart with you the tools necessary not to just survive, but thrive as an investor. Hey Vince, let me ask you this. You just bought a new graphics card, didn't you?
You know, I did. You know, Teasin, you helped me out with building a brand new computer, and I needed a good graphics card, so I got the 3070.
Yeah, how was that?
Honestly, it's a huge step up.
Yeah, I know before you didn't have a desktop, so you were using your laptop for everything, right?
Yeah, and honestly, before then I thought my laptop was pretty great. For my graphics card for my laptop, it had the MX250.
Oh, okay. That's the GeForce, right?
Yeah. Same company, same everything, just MX250. And I do know that we looked it up and we saw the ranking. Now the ranking was less than stellar, to put it bluntly.
But the new graphics, it comes out what? Like in 10th place?
It was like 10th place. 10th place out of like 600.
That's not bad.
It's not bad. Yeah, the 3070, I have no complaints about that whatsoever. Yeah, it was a little bit pricey, but you know, for the performance, I think it's worth it.
Nice. Yeah, I actually have the Quadro, the RTX 6000.
Jeez.
So it was pretty pricey when I bought it, but not gonna lie, it is amazing.
I mean, it sounds like a powerhouse, but I mean, like,
oh, it's a beast.
I think that's like, if you want to be creative, you need a good graphics card.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what you're doing, like let's say you're recording something or editing something, or even like working on like complete like complex graphics, you kind of need something really powerful.
Yeah, and even like with data science, you need a good graphics card to do all those high computations with machine learning and AI stuff. Plus, like you said, with like if you want to do CAD, like or architecture or engineering, you kind of need a good graphics card. You have to have something. Before it was like it was an option. Now it's a necessity to operate in this kind of economy.
Exactly. And so, guys, that brings us to today's episode. Today, we're gonna analyze and do a SWOT for Nvidia.
That's right, Teasin. Nvidia. Is it all hype? Is it a great company? Who knows? We'll find out by the end of today's episode.
But first, let's begin and talk a little bit about what exactly Nvidia is.
That's right, Teasin. Now, if we talk about Nvidia, we really have to talk about their founder and CEO, which is Jensen Huang. Now, Jensen, he's been there since the beginning. In fact, he helped co-found the company in 1993, and he's been there since the highs and lows.
Okay.
So he's really responsible for bringing Nvidia to where it is today.
So how much of Nvidia does he own? Do you know?
Yeah, so he owns roughly around 18 million shares of Nvidia. But for a guy that's been there since the beginning, that's kind of worth it.
And what, like right now it's around like $550 a share. So that's a really good number.
He's doing pretty well for himself right now.
Yeah.
Even though he's the biggest sole individual owner, he's not the actual biggest owner of Nvidia.
I'm guessing there's other investors like obviously Vanguard and like BlackRock.
I mean, you know, Vanguard pretty much owns everything, and BlackRock, it's like one of the biggest hedge fund companies out there. Yeah, so number one goes to Vanguard, and Vanguard owns around 48 million shares of Nvidia.
Oh, okay.
Number two goes to FMR LLC at 44 million shares. Number three goes to, everyone knows, BlackRock. And they own, of course, and they own around 43 million shares.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and number four goes to State Street Corporation at 25 million shares.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah, like, to be fair, Jensen owns around 18 million shares as of January 3rd, and he's not that far off from these major corporations who own, like, a whole lot of Nvidia. So he's got a pretty big pull.
It's not bad. That's not bad. I mean, you know, he was the one who started it, so...
Exactly.
Makes sense.
And, like, since its inception, like, as of today, they really focus on two different fields of operations. They're GPUs and Tegra processors.
Now, I do know that the GPU was created in 1999, am I right?
Yeah, that's correct. In fact, Nvidia is the one that actually created or invented GPUs.
Oh, GPUs itself?
Yeah, they created GPUs.
So before that, there was no such thing as graphical processors?
I mean, there was graphics and processors, but like, they're the ones that really mainstreamed it and made it its own separate entity from the actual motherboard itself.
Gotcha. I do know that there are quite a number of different types of graphics cards, like GPUs. There's certain ones called GeForce, which are actually for PC gaming. You have there's a new thing called GeForce Now,
Okay.
which I believe is inside the Nvidia Shield.
Interesting.
So, if you think about it, it's one of those, what is it, cloud gaming consoles?
So they've gone beyond like physical GPUs. It's more like cloud-based as well. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's located in a designated, server base,
Okay,
but it runs through your internet.
gotcha.
Yeah, and then they have the Quadros, which are their top level, and they're made for like working with AutoCAD or video editing or for creatives.
Oh,
so that's
like,
the one
say-
that
so
I have.
If you're like a video maker, you need a Quadro.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need it. You can still use GeForce, but the Quadros are like the top tier.
Gotcha.
And I do know that if you're trying to do like deep learning or accelerated graphics, they actually have something called the Nvidia Tesla.
Does it have any
Now-
relationship to Tesla, the company?
No.
No.
It has no relation to Tesla company, but
Yeah, when you said
they just
when you said like Nvidia Tesla, I thought like, oh wow, they are doing a collaboration with Tesla.
yeah. I mean, you would think that they're doing a collaboration, but nope. It's actually completely different.
Huh.
And let's say like people who are scientists, researchers, developers, or like anyone working with AI, they use a different form of graphics called the DGX.
DGX, what is that?
Yeah, they actually have more cores,
Oh,
so they're
okay.
able to run more complex scenarios and like more complex coding.
Okay. Now there's one more, right?
They also have the EGX,
Yes, the EGX.
and they're actually for accelerated AI.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So,
So those are
like-
for like the high advanced. They're like almost for like what's it, like supercomputer level?
Gotcha. So like I know like in school they always said like, oh, if you want to do machine learning, just get a GPU or get a good GPU. But that's not the case. They really subset the GPUs into different categories based upon what you need. So you can say like, oh, I've got a good GPU. Well, what are you really using your GPU for? And that's really cool about what Nvidia is doing. They're custom tailoring each GPU based upon what your needs are, which is pretty nice.
Yeah. So like you don't have to get like a crazy expensive like high one if you're just gonna do like PC gaming
Yes.
or like editing. You can just choose which one and it's tailored just for that use.
Nice. Now, another field of operation that they do is, besides GPU, is Tegra processor. Teason, what is a Tegra processor?
So the Tegra processor, it's basically a graphics for a mobile device or any handheld device.
Okay, I got
Right.
you.
So they do use it for some mobile devices,
Okay.
but not really a whole lot because it's mostly Snapdragon and Qualcomm that takes over.
So, Snapdragon and Qualcomm, they're not part of Nvidia, right? They're two different companies.
No, they're two different companies, but they take over the
market share.
mobile
They have
market.
a larger market share. Gotcha.
They also use Tegras for their Shield.
Shield.
So remember the Nvidia Shield that I was talking about?
Yes. You're the AI cloud stuff, right?
Yeah, it's cloud gaming.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so technically, you don't need a powerful computer or a powerful console. You just plug in the device to your computer. I mean, my bad. You just plug in the device to your TV and click an Ethernet cord,
Okay.
and you're good to go.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That sounds actually really good.
And I do know that Tegra is also in their AI computing realm.
Okay. AI,
So
that's
things
AGX
like,
program, right?
Yes. So that's for self-driving vehicles. They also do medical instruments and also robotics, I believe.
Yeah. It's just like astounding. Like Nvidia, like before doing research for the episode, I thought like, oh, Nvidia, cool, graphics cards, no big deal. And I was wondering why all the hype was about. Like, why is their stock price doing so well? But
I mean, if you think about it, their stock price has skyrocketed since COVID hit.
I mean, I don't blame
'cause-
that. Like, what graphics card people are at home, they want to game, they want to do stuff at home, but not just gaming. It's revolutionary. If you want to do more advanced stuff in any field, you need great graphics card. And Nvidia, they're a trailblazer in this entire industry.
Yeah, and if you also think about it, since the quarantine happened, everyone's working from home, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who, at their workplace, they use multiple monitors or like they run certain processes in the background. So they couldn't do that at home because they probably don't have an advanced system. So, they had to get new systems or they had to build a new system.
Wow.
And their sales have skyrocketed since that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely talk more about like their sales and all that good stuff in our SWOT analysis. But It goes to show like Nvidia's turning into from a want to more or less a need. And guys, that brings us to our SWOT analysis. Now, Tizen, we've already discussed that the huge industry of Nvidia, but let's talk about their strengths.
So for the strengths, I would say that the biggest strength that they have is that they actually created CUDA.
CUDA. Oh, so what is CUDA exactly?
Well, CUDA actually enables a developer to enhance or like get the raw power of the computing.
So
now what that means
Okay.
is that it allows applications to harness the raw power. So it'll allow them to run faster and smoother. So let's say you're using any Adobe products, right?
Sure.
Mostly it's designed for CUDA,
Okay.
right? So what CUDA does is it enables any program to use the graphics card instead of the actual computer. So instead of putting pressure on the CPU or the memory,
Gotcha.
it uses more on the graphics card. So it'll allow it to run faster or render faster.
Now, CUDA is a software built on top of the GPU. That's correct, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I do know like the reason why people in Adobe want to use a GPU instead of like their CPU, because a GPU has a whole lot of parallel processes that can happen at the same time. Versus like what? A CPU, they only have how many cores? Like on average, like
I mean, on average, it's usually like 8.
8 cores. So like
But
you have
unless
8
you
processes.
get something, that's high up, like the i7 Extreme or the i9s, which would have like anywhere between 12 to 20 cores.
So that means like they could do 20 things at a time. Okay, that's not bad. But with the GPU, any sort of GPU, they could do, instead of doing 12 things at a time, they could do thousands of things at a time.
Yeah.
So that's a huge
But
difference.
it also depends on like how powerful that graphics card is.
Yes, that's 100% true.
And what a lot of people do is they have something called an SLI. So
Okay.
it bridges multiple graphics cards together, which would give it even more power and more computing.
Dang. I mean, that is pretty wild that Nvidia actually created CUDA. But I do know that they do have a competitor, which is OpenCL. But
That's for AMD.
that's for AMD, but it's not as good as CUDA, at least from what I
No,
read.
it's not as advanced as CUDA,
Yeah,
but it is good for some things.
gotcha. I know Apple also uses OpenCL as well, but it's from also like what I'm hearing. It's not as good as CUDA, which is native to Nvidia. We said at the top of the episode, Nvidia they invented the GPU itself. Like
Yeah, in
you have-
1999.
Yeah, in 1999, they started it off, which means they had a huge head start compared to the competition, such as AMD, such as any other industry, but they have such a good advantage. Now, the reason why they have such a huge advantage is because they are really investing heavily on their R&D. Now, to date, they've invested around $20 billion in R&D.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so since inception, they've spent $20 billion in R&D, which, I mean, for any sort of industry, it's important to spend on R&D, but as a tech industry, it's vital to invest in R&D because Moore's Law, everything's just growing at an exponential rate. Now, if you want to be in the forefront of technology, you need to do that. And in fact, on their corporate standing and their corporate reports, their quarterly reports stated that they have superseded Moore's Law.
Really?
That might be a marketing strategy, that might just be verbatim, but they claim to be developing faster than Moore's Law.
Now, if you think about it, they're actually in almost every single field.
Really?
Now, yeah, they're actually in the financial services
Oh,
for like deep and machine learning.
What? Hold on. So, machine learning. Can you give me an example of why would they be in the financial services? Because, like, it's a graphics card. Why would they need graphics cards?
I mean, so if you were to think about like AI-powered banking, right?
Okay.
So banking that is on your mobile devices. You know how like normally you would to bank, you would go to the bank,
Yes.
you would go see the tellers and all that, right? But nowadays everything's moving towards like the cloud base.
So it's more automation, also.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So what it does is it allows them to automate everything and to basically offload a bunch of routines and tasks and accelerate the whole process.
Dang, that's actually pretty cool.
And if you think about it, trading.
Yes.
Traders use a lot of GPU powered hardware.
So that really enhances the competition amongst people who have more GPUs. Gotcha.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if you're thinking about like a trading platform, right?
Yes.
If you were to go to the stock exchange, like a person working there, they don't have just one or two monitors. they can have anywhere between like 8 to even like 10 monitors running at the same time, and each one of them are pulling in real-time information. Now, to run everything and to get all those numbers clearly on there within a fraction of a millisecond, you need like a huge computing power.
I do know, like, now the field is turning towards more automated investing. I know they have like those AIs that are able to like download everything like that.
Yep.
Do machine learning or deep learning to figure out when is a perfect time to make those buys, make those sells. And just like those split milliseconds can mean the difference of millions or billions of dollars.
Yep.
It's freaking wild. Yeah, so say for example, it's not just like with investing. It's also like you don't have to be an investor to reap the benefits of a whole bunch of GPUs. Say for example, you're a regular Joe who banks with, American Express as an example. They actually use their GPUs to actually help prevent cybercrime. In fact, with Nvidia GPUs, they've roughly cut down the cost of cybercrime by 0.8% of the worldwide GDP.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a lot. The GPUs help them tremendously. Now, it's really because of this technology called long short-term memory networks. Now, long short-term memory networks is just like deep learning, and as we said, deep learning requires a whole lot of GPUs, a whole lot of machine learning, and because of that, people don't have to worry so much about the security of their finances.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, one of the biggest areas in the finance, I guess, that the GPU comes into play is actually mining bitcoins or cryptocurrencies.
Wow.
Just like our last podcast that we did
That is
about
true.
Ether.
Yeah.
You know, so you need these powerful graphics cards in order to mine. Now, if you guys want to learn more about cryptocurrencies, go check out our previous episode 3 of the 202A podcast.
That's right. It's a great episode, and you learn a whole lot. And you know what, if anything? This episode fills in a whole lot of gaps if you don't know much about GPUs over there.
Now, not just the financial field, it's actually heavily into the healthcare field, the higher learning, different industrial, and the biggest one I would say is media and entertainment.
Why do you say that?
Well, because if you think about it, any media or entertainment, like let's say you're watching Netflix or like, you know, whatever streaming service, right? All the movies, all the shows that is produced on there is actually rendered and created using, you know, like editing software.
As a very practical example, Teasin, you and I, we actually have a YouTube channel called It's 5 O'Clock. Now,
We do.
Now, it's a great channel. If you guys want to check it out, definitely check it out.
We basically show you how to make complex drinks.
Yeah, and we do it in a fun and entertaining way. But with graphics cards, I was editing on my laptop. Now, my laptop, Teasin, you could attest, it was kind of crap trying to render any little thing.
Oh, it would take days.
It would take days and it would crash on me. It was just awful. Now, I changed over from my crappy GPU. Like, yeah, it was from Nvidia, but it was a very crappy one, to a 3070. And oh my God.
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
like night and day.
You transitioned from a laptop to a dedicated CPU.
Yes.
I mean, a dedicated GPU, I mean. Yeah, so it gives you more raw power.
It does, yeah.
So, I mean, tell me, like, how was your editing process after that?
Honestly,
How was the whole experience?
What took me days, literally, I kid you not, what would take me like at least 2-3 days would take me 4 hours max.
And that's like the sheer power of it.
And like, that's just, it goes back to like Nvidia. They produce technology which is phenomenal and makes my life so much easier.
Yeah. I mean, another sector that they're actually in is the public sector. And just like you said earlier, they do deal with cybersecurity and actually autonomous machining.
What do you mean by autonomous machining?
Yeah, well, autonomous machining is basically, if you've ever seen like those videos where they show Amazon's Amazon's warehouses, right?
Okay.
They have those machines that go around, map out different places, go and pick up certain things from certain locations, right?
Okay.
So they actually use Nvidia chips to process those. So they use that for like their robotics and all that.
Oh, wow. That is really cool. That is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, they also use it for retail, robotics, smart cities, and even telecommunication, which I'm like, I haven't really seen it in the telecommunication market, but
Yeah.
I guess they're getting into it.
Gotcha.
And they are also major in the supercomputing.
Yeah, I mean, like with supercomputing, there's like no competition. Like Nvidia's like, they're there.
Yeah, it's the top.
Yes.
It's number one.
You listed, yeah, Teasin, you just listed like a whole I think you pretty much list every industry out there known to mankind that involves a computer. And whatever industry is out there that involves a computer, NVIDIA's there.
Whether it's anything electronic that, has an output display or has any information that's moving around.
Yes.
NVIDIA's in there.
Wow. I mean, not gonna lie, that's a huge market right there for them. I mean, yeah, we listed a whole bunch of different like cryptocurrencies like Ether. We've listed Neo. Yeah, I mean, they have got some good strengths, but they don't have this strength. They don't have the ability to pierce or enter in any market that they want.
One of the, I would say, another greatest strength that they have is the fact that they actually don't directly manufacture them.
No, what do you mean by that? Hold on, wait. NVIDIA doesn't manufacture their own graphics cards?
No, they actually outsource it. So they use a strategy called the fabless manufacturing strategy.
What's a fabless manufacturing strategy?
So it allows them to keep their costs lower. And they outsource to companies like Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. And believe it or not, they actually manufactured with Samsung. Okay, Samsung. We're talking about the mobile company.
The big company, Samsung, the one that makes our phones and all that.
Yeah. So they partnered with them in December 19th of 2020. And they partnered with them so that Samsung can help them create the RTX 3080 and the 3090s because their demand for those were way above.
Wait, hold on. So I thought they already had a manufacturer. So they partnered up with Samsung to produce more?
Yeah, because their demand was way too high.
Man, that's really cool. So let me get this straight. So Nvidia, they're just more of a design. They design the chips. They design the graphics cards.
Yeah. So they design it and they create it. They create the technology behind it.
Okay.
And they outsource it so that they can keep the costs lower.
Wow. I guess
because they are based in California.
Yes.
So instead of building and manufacturing it here, they outsource it to Taiwan and like to Samsung. So it's much cheaper.
I mean, I guess that's a really good reason why their working capital is so high. Like, we were looking over their balance sheets and their financials, and we noticed that from 2019 to 2020 of quarter four, their working capital increased by $10.9 billion.
That was somewhat close, around like 40-something%, right?
Yeah, around 47% increase. Like, it's freaking wild. It's freaking wild.
That's crazy,
Yeah, I mean, it's a good strategy going to them. I mean, like, they're making a lot of money. They have a whole lot of demand, and like they're pretty much in every industry out there. I mean, Nvidia's freaking amazing, and I understand why there's so much hype about this company. Now, that was a whole bunch of strengths, but they do have a whole bunch of weaknesses. Like, say, for example, the biggest weakness that they do have is their supply and demand. Now, there is a whole lot of demand for NVIDIA, like their graphics card. Now that there's COVID, a lot of people really want to get into gaming. So with gaming, they need a whole bunch of strong graphics cards. Now, in 2020, that led to an unprecedentedly high amount of demand for NVIDIA's graphics cards. Now, Teasin, you for one, about the supply and demand issue. Their graphics cards pretty much went out of stock virtually immediately after they started selling them.
So one of the biggest things is the fact that they are kind of seasonal. So they do release every 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
Right. Now, what's kind of bad about this is that right when they release a new graphics card, obviously there's a lot of people who buy it, but at the same time, there's a lot of scalpers that go out and buy in bulks.
Yeah.
Now, they buy it not just for gaming reasons or just to have it. They buy it because the cryptocurrency market is super high right now.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
So in order to mine, you would need a good graphics card. So all these scalpers would buy it and resell it for double, triple the price.
That's awful. And it sucks for Nvidia because Nvidia, they're losing off on a whole bunch of capital gains right there. Like, they lose on a whole bunch of opportunities to these scalpers who, you said make double, triple the value of the retail value of a graphics card.
Yeah. I mean, I would say one of the biggest things was the fact that, COVID hit and they didn't really expect this much demand on graphics cards.
That is true, yeah. I mean, it was unprecedented, but I feel like they should have known, I mean, they're an established company. They should know that there's a huge demand for this.
I mean, I feel like it recently became a huge thing. But yeah, I would say that they should have known.
They should. Yeah,
I mean, they did ask Samsung for help, and they did come through, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, I feel like it's too little, too late, if you ask me. Because like, yeah, there's a lot of hype, but the damage is done. It's bad to their reputation.
Now, another thing that kind of sucks is the fact that their majority of revenue actually comes from like a limited number of customers.
Oh,
right?
in what way?
So, for instance, their biggest revenue right now actually comes from Dell.
Dell,
yeah, the computer company, Dell.
Huh.
And they're actually responsible for 11% of Nvidia's revenue.
Oh my
So
God.
let's say for some reason they were to lose them, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of screwed.
They're really screwed. That's like, that's
They're
11% of
in
their
really
revenue.
big trouble.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's a legitimate possibility that Dell could go to AMD.
Yeah.
Like, what's to stop them?
If Dell goes to AMD, then
Well, I can
that's
guarantee you that if that news ever comes about, if there are talks about Dell leaving Nvidia, their stock prices will tank, and it's a good time to
they
sell.
will
what we
tank
got.
very bad.
They'll tank. Yes.
And I would say that another weakness that they had was that they released this new technology called Nvidia Shield, like I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Right? So they released that in 2015, I believe. So, like I mentioned earlier, it's like a cloud gaming service. So just like how you would have like a Roku TV or whatnot, they have this device that you plug onto the TV and you can have access to, Netflix, Hulu, or whatever streaming service.
Okay.
But at the same time, it also has a controller and you can actually play games right on there
That
without
sounds
having a
amazing,
console or
actually.
anything.
Yeah, no console, just streaming games. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, and you would think that's good. But when it actually came out to the public and when people started using it, it was actually not optimized.
Like,
So-
what do you mean by that? Like, it wasn't optimized. Did people have a bad experience with it?
People had a bad experience. The rendering was off. The input lags were off, and the graphics itself, it was not that great. So it kind of died. That was like a mistake on that.
Yeah, it sounds like they shot for the stars and ended up sinking. Didn't even leave the Earth. Whew.
Yeah, so that did take an impact on them.
Yeah.
But I mean, to this day, they still have Nvidia Shield. They're just trying to fix all the things that messed up.
Oh, so they're trying again. They're still trying.
Yeah, they're still trying.
Interesting.
But I'm just like, at this point,
Why even bother?
would it? Yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, now Xbox or like PlayStation, most of their games are actually cloud-based.
Oh yeah, that is true. And PlayStation is Sony, Microsoft is, Xbox is Microsoft. So those are like two big competitors to Nvidia. At that point, why even bother? Like, just focus on what you're good at. But I do know, like, that is horrible. But as an investor, say for example, if you're buying into Nvidia, you could have your money grow faster at a different pace. Now, as an example,
I mean, your money will grow with Nvidia because they are A, established,
yes,
and B, they are in different fields.
they are in different fields. But like, what we're trying to get at is like, you have more opportunities elsewhere. Now, as a benchmark, what we did is
Like
we
a
tried
higher growth.
Yeah. So what we did was we did a benchmark, and in 2016, January 2016, we did a hypothetical situation or simulation where we invested $1,000 into the market, aka the S&P 500. Now, if you invested $1,000 5 years ago, today you would have $2,000. Not bad. You double your money. Now, Nvidia, for example, you invest $1,000 in January. Today, in January of 2021, you would make $18,800.
That is really good.
I mean, yeah, that is really good. That's like what, $16,000 more than what you would make if you invested into the market, into the S&P 500.
Yeah, but let me ask you. I'm pretty sure there's another graphic company that does way better.
There is actually another graphics company, and that's AMD. Now, same situation. You invested in AMD 5 years ago, $1,000 into it. Today, if you invested $1,000, you would have made $45,235.
Whew.
Yeah.
Hot damn.
Yeah, their rate of growth is
That's over 2.5 times
Astounding.
as much from Nvidia.
I know, like as a long investor, if you saw those two different things, you'd be pissed off at yourself. Why didn't you invest in AMD? Now, AMD, they're actually not doing so bad. Yeah, today they're not as good as Nvidia, like objectively. They're not as good as Nvidia. But they're growing at a huge rate.
I think the biggest reason why is because, Nvidia is more of a graphic. Like a graphic card company, right?
Yes.
While as AMD, they do both graphic and CPU.
They do. They really do. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk a little bit about that, but Nvidia is really trying to get into that market as well, into the processors, into the architectural market as well. At this point, season, I think it's a little late, too little, too late. compared to
Yeah, kind of.
yeah.
But I mean, they can try. If they do succeed, that's a big win.
Yeah.
You got a big graphic giant. If they were to create like a really good processor, it's Intel would be destroyed.
Exactly. Now, another thing we looked at so say for example you're not a long investor. Say for example you're more of a day trader. You're a short-term investor. We normalized the S&P 500, Nvidia, and AMD in the span of 5 years. And what we've noticed is that you would make a lot more money as a short-term investor if you invested in AMD than if you invested in Nvidia. Nvidia has a whole lot more volatility to it. Now, teasing, in 2018, there was a big event that occurred in the entire GPU industry.
I mean, in 2018, in October, actually, Nvidia had a very big stock collapse. So basically, there were concerns about, interest rates going up and slow global economies, right?
Yes.
And there were also the escalating, what was escalating was a trade war between China. And that actually caused Nvidia stocks to decline a whopping 25%.
Ooh, wow.
25%.
25%.
Yeah, and the thing is, it took them a while to get back up, but who got up quicker was AMD.
Yeah, I'm looking at the graph right now, and it looks like before then, Nvidia was doing quite well compared to AMD, and after that, I mean, Nvidia never really quite recovered. It never really superseded AMD after that moment, after 2018.
Nope.
No, Nvidia is still at the top. And it looks like, the volatility of Nvidia is so much more drastic than AMD. I mean, it kind of makes sense because what? Nvidia, they outsource a whole lot of their manufacturing to Chinese companies.
Yeah, I mean, Taiwan.
So, and because of that, because of the trade war, like Samsung, Taiwan,
they had problems.
They have problems, exactly, yeah. So, makes sense. It really does make sense. That's a huge, huge weakness.
So, yeah, I mean, they do have some weaknesses, but at the same time, they have a great number of opportunities that actually comes into play.
Yeah, that's right, Season. And I believe one of their biggest opportunities that they have is the fact that GPUs are meant artificial intelligence. Now, we did talk a little bit about that in the beginning of the episode, but to recap, GPUs, they have thousands and thousands of cores, effectively, that allows us to do thousands of activities or thousands of things.
Simultaneously.
That's right. They do thousands of things simultaneously. And it's really cool because it offers a whole lot of power and it does a whole lot of things. So you're able to accomplish a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, the AI market, it's becoming more and more, and plus, now everything's becoming automated.
Exactly. And you need something to teach it, and then AI is what it is.
Yeah. Now, one of the other great opportunities that Nvidia has is that because of their popularity and because they are number one in the graphics industry, a lot of startups that's opening up, they prefer using Nvidia's GPUs over their competitions.
Man, that's like the power of brand recognition right there. Yeah, I mean, and also it's not just startups, it's with established industries as well. Like if you talk about hospitals, if you talk about medical research centers, if you talk about anything. Besides gaming or video editing, people are taking notice of Nvidia and they really want to get a piece of that action right there.
I mean, going back to what you said about gaming. So, yeah, actually going back to what you were talking about gaming, right? So, within the last, I think it was 4 or 5 years, the biggest thing now is actually esports. Esports. So, basically, computer gaming.
Okay, yeah,
now
they have a
there's
whole bunch of tournaments for that, and there's a whole lot of money to be won with that.
It's a crap ton of money that's put into that, and a lot of these gamers, they prefer using Nvidia over AMD.
I mean, it's name recognition, it's performance. I mean, if you're playing video games as a sport, you need the best of the best if you want to compete against anyone else.
So I feel like that is actually one of the good.
Gaming is huge, but they also want to expand away from gaming as well. And this really comes in the form of the acquisition of ARM.
Yeah, so they actually did an acquisition of ARM for $40 billion.
$40 billion.
Yep, $40 billion.
ARM. I've never heard of this company before. What is ARM?
Yeah, so what exactly is ARM? Well, they actually produce these microchips that's used in almost every single mobile-friendly device.
Really?
So, yeah, a bunch of companies that use them is actually Apple, Samsung, Amazon, Qualcomm, and even Huawei.
Huawei,
right?
The major phone company.
Wow. Yeah, so, I mean, it's a chipset that is used to process certain things, and it can be found in even, your wearable watch, your smartwatch that you have.
Yes.
That or basically any mobile device. So, like we said earlier, they are getting into the telecommunication market.
Sure. Okay.
So, this is one way of them getting into that.
Oh, okay. Okay. And for $40 billion, is that approved or is it still pending approval?
Yeah, so it's actually not approved yet.
Okay.
It's actually pending approval from the European Union, the United States, Japan, and even China.
Gotcha. So once all four of those major countries approve this, then the merger is going
Then they will get into it. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
and then Nvidia is basically going to provide the ARM licenses
Okay.
and give them access to Nvidia's designs.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I mean, it's a great opportunity. They're literally branching out to everything.
And yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, once they do, they're going to become, part of all these microprocessors. They're going to be in tablets, cell phones, autonomous vehicles, and even your household appliances like smart washing machines, stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean,
Smart devices. Basically.
I feel like it's just like a matter of time before Nvidia becomes a household name. Now, with Nvidia, even though they have so many great opportunities going on in the future, I'm sure they have major competitors, they have major threats.
Oh yeah, they do have quite a number of threats actually. One of them being the fact that they actually failed to meet their demands. Because, the supply and demand issue that they had was pretty bad.
You're talking about the
Now-
one in 2020, right?
Yeah. The fact that, they ran out of, the 3070s and the 3080s and the 3090s. That actually allowed AMD to fulfill their demands.
So AMD, they're still in stock, right?
Yeah, they're still in stock.
Oh, that's
It's
really
just
bad.
it's just that Nvidia, they're actually out of stock.
Ooh, so Nvidia's it's pricier. It's already pricier as it is, but even if you buy it from a third party, it's going to be really, really pricey.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah,
why
it's going to be. It can be double or even triple the retail price.
Yeah, I can't imagine people who actually switch over from Nvidia to AMD, they might switch their brand loyalty from Nvidia to AMD.
I mean, yeah, they could.
They could. Ooh, that's actually not
Yeah,
good.
that's like one of the biggest threats that I see.
Now, another threat that I see comes from this article published by High Performance Computing. Now, this is a scientific paper where they objectively compared two different graphics cards. Now, the two graphics cards that they compared it is the NVIDIA's V100, the 16 gigabit one, compared to the AMD Radeon 7.
Okay.
Yeah, so what they did over there with this test is that they performed 2,800 different test matrices and tested them based on optimal kernels versus on the AMD HIP sparse library versus the NVIDIA CU sparse library.
Okay.
Now, what they found out was that through running all these different test matrices, well, it's no joke, but they found out that the NVIDIA's V100 is faster than the Radeon V7, or the Radeon 7.
Okay. So that's good.
That you would think that's good. That is good. But what they found out is from a price to performance ratio, AMD was a lot better than NVIDIA. Now, if you looked at the price, the NVIDIA V100, that retails for $7,000.
Whew.
Now, the AMD
$7
Radeon...
grand.
Yeah. The AMD Radeon 7, that retails for around $2,500 to $3,000.
Much better.
That's much, much better. Even though they didn't perform, AMD didn't perform as well as NVIDIA, they did hold up pretty well, and they are more affordable.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather get two of the AMDs
Yeah, two of the
than
AMDs, merge
one
them together.
V100,
Oh, 100%. 100%. So that's a big threat. Yeah, they're losing their brand loyalty to AMD, and they're potentially losing their price performance ratios to AMD. It's pretty scary.
Yeah. I mean, another threat that they face is the fact that, since rapid technology growth, it actually becomes more difficult to remain with the cutting edge technology.
So you're saying it will cost them more in R&D to become ahead
to
of
produce
competition.
more and more, advanced systems.
Ugh, that's really not good. That's
Yeah.
really...
Yeah, and another threat would be the fact that AMD actually produces more affordable units. So if you were to buy the same spec graphics card from AMD or Nvidia, AMD would be much cheaper.
I gotcha. Ooh, that's not good. I can imagine that. I mean, I guess we'll talk more about that later in this one analysis, but I can imagine that younger kids who cannot afford graphics cards, they would probably, instead of growing up with Nvidia, they'd grow up with AMD. And then eventually they'll grow up as an adult when they actually do have a lot more money to spend. They will keep...
They still choose AMD because they're used to it.
Exactly. Ooh, that's not good. Now, according to their 2020 quarter four reports, Nvidia acknowledges that they face a big problem. And that problem is from hacking and security and data breach. Now, they've addressed
Like
it in
hacking
the past.
Nvidia itself?
Yeah, Nvidia to their graphics cards. Their graphics cards are compromisable.
Okay.
Now, they acknowledge this is a past issue, but they also acknowledge that this will be a reoccurring issue even going forward.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Now,
not good.
the latest patch that they did was actually on January 8th of 2021. Now, that patch was to actually cover up like any sort of any of the 30 series. Now, the 30 series, they were really susceptible to DOS attacks, data tampering, and information disclosures. Now, if you did the patch, if you did the update, you're okay, but before then, it's kind of susceptible to getting your data. So it is a bit scary.
I got you. I mean, hey, at least they were able to patch it, but the fact that it's reoccurring,
Yeah.
that's kind of not that great.
I mean, if it's hackable, it's hackable, and Nvidia knows this, but it sucks that this is going to be a reoccurring issue.
Well, I would say the last threat that they face is the fact that, they rely on third parties for their supply in tech.
That is true.
They outsource everything, right? So the fact that they're actually not meeting their demands, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, they can't be control of the actual supply demand chain or like the actual manufacturing process. Say, for example, their quality isn't up to their par. They can't really do anything about that.
I mean, that and like, let's say for some reason, like Nvidia ordered, let's say like 50,000 or like 150,000, the next coming, 4010s or 4020s, and their manufacturers cannot meet up to that, that's on them,
Yeah.
I mean, what can they do at that point?
They really can't do anything about that. I mean, they can't really micromanage them because it's not within their entire realm.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But guys, there you have it. That was our SWOT analysis of Nvidia.
That's right, Teason. Now, I gotta ask you, with Nvidia, there was a whole lot of hype going on with the company. But do you think they'll sink or swim?
I definitely think that they will swim.
Okay.
I mean, the reason why, they created the GPUs.
Yes.
Back in 1999. So they're in this from the start. So there's no way that they're going to sink. Now, are they going to, blow up like crazy? Maybe not. But they might because of the fact that they're trying to acquisition ARM. Once they do that, they'll be more invested into the mobile device department.
I agree. I think it's a smart move on them to expand on their actual market of like GPUs and Tegra processors or Tegra processors.
Tegra processors.
Tegra processors, yeah. It's a good move to go on that part because their biggest competition is AMD. There's hands down. There's no avoiding that. And AMD, they are literally everywhere. They do processors, they do graphics cards, they do almost anything and everything. I feel like that's my biggest concern. It's AMD. Now, we did look at the finance as an investor. If you want to make a lot of money, actually, you would make more money if you had it invested in AMD than if you invested in Nvidia.
Yeah.
And the fact that their growth is growing much faster than Nvidia's, it's kind of worrisome.
But then again, another way to look at it is that Nvidia is pretty steady, It's a steady incline.
Yeah, so, that's what I'm worried about too. Yeah, they have a steady incline, but here's an analogy that I've got. You have Ford, right? Yeah, Ford pretty much like modernized what the car is back in the 20th century. But today, a Ford isn't like as good as it used to be. Like you have other better brands, such as like, say for example, if you want a more reliable car, you have a Toyota, or you have a Volkswagen, you have many different things. If you have luxury, you don't think of Ford, you think about a Bentley or Rolls Royce, for example. I feel like this is the same situation that Nvidia is facing. Yeah, they invented the GPU, and I do agree with you. I think they'll be there for the long haul, but I don't know if they will be the best. I don't think they will hold the #1 market share for a very long time.
I mean, I'd have to kind of disagree with you, only because, they are getting ARM, and once they do get ARM, they start creating microchips and all that good stuff, but also they are trying to get into like creating CPUs.
That is true.
Now, if they do and they become really good, they can easily take over AMD.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it's easy. They can easily take over AMD.
I mean, right now, like, Nvidia's really good with their graphics, right? Their graphics card is #1.
Oh, yeah, there's no question about that.
Yeah. The reason why AMD is #1 is actually because of their processors.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. Because, like, before, like, they were... Like, AMD and Intel was, like, head-to-head. Intel had the i9 series, and that was a powerful processor.
Yes.
And then AMD came out with the Ryzen 9, which was very similar. right? It was in the same spectrum. But then AMD released Threadrippers. That was like a whole new type of processor, and that was, I would say, like 40-50% way better than the i9 processors.
Yeah.
And that's what really took off AMD, and that's why AMD right now is actually a better, processor. And
Exactly. I feel like at that point you're just like proving my points. They've destroyed, like, more or less, not destroyed Intel, but they are better than Intel at this point, objectively speaking.
they are better than Intel.
And that's because, like you said, they focus first on the processors. Now they're switching their gears towards GPUs. Who's to say that they won't do the same thing with
always
Nvidia?
been like, they've always had both, but they just got like the best processor out last year, like second quarter.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
So,
that is true.
I mean, now, like, if AMD were to have, like, another graphics card that comes out that is, like, way better than the 3090 at a way more affordable rate, which they probably will, I can see them doing better. But at the same time, I kind of have a feeling Nvidia, they might have something up their sleeves within the next 6 months.
I don't know. I feel like, if you're talking about, like, objectivity, like, which is better, like, objectively, then yeah, for sure. I see, like, at least for the next 5 or so years, Nvidia will definitely have hands up. But with their supply-demand issue that really took place, AMD still has supply available. Nvidia doesn't. That is a big, and considering, like, with COVID and everything like that, people are transitioning to AMD stuff. Just, like, not because it's the best, but because, like, it's available.
It's more affordable.
It's more affordable. And like we mentioned before, it's like a younger demographic will probably grow up with AMD. They'll have more of a preference with AMD. And then they'll transition their preference when they become adults. So it's the next generation. And that's a big, huge thing that if NVIDIA really wants to crush the competition with AMD, they really need to get their act together and figure out their supply and demand issue.
Okay. So I'm guessing your 2 cents on it would be that it will swim.
I mean,
right?
yeah,
NVIDIA
there's no question that, I agree. There's no question that NVIDIA will swim. It's just, with AMD, I feel like within like 5-6 years, I think AMD will be the go-to company when it comes to processors and GPUs.
Gotcha. Now, I do know that NVIDIA stock right now is at 554.
That is true.
So, I mean, they have been getting a really good rate. Like, they have been bullish. So I do think that by the time they come out with the next graphics card, they will have like a better, like supply and demand rate. And I have a feeling that price might increase to the high 80s, 800.
By what time? By year end of next year?
Within the next 7 to 8 months.
7 to 8 months? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a fair assumption. I mean, definitely, like, if you buy shares of Nvidia, you definitely can't go wrong as an investor. With that.
And I mean, the fact that they already got ARM, or they're pending approval.
Well, they're pending approval, yeah. Just so long as, like, just as long as the US, EU, and everything like that, everything's okay, then yeah. But if ARM falls through, then...
then it's like one of those, So it's like a 50-50 give, but even without that, like, it's a stock that will grow.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
It's not just gonna drop.
No, I don't think so. But, I don't know. For me personally, if it were me, I would invest more in AMD than in NVIDIA.
I mean, AMD's better with the returns. I
think so.
Because, I would say, like, if you want to go with the safe bet with, like, no risk, I would say do NVIDIA. But if you're willing to have a little bit of risk for a higher reward, definitely go with AMD.
I think so.
Because they are doing much better, and they are processors and everything. They are, next level, next gen.
They are next gen. But, like, I mean, overall, Tizan, I give NVIDIA, like, an A. Like, as a company-wise, like, doing, like, inventing the GPU, doing as well as they are doing. Yeah, I mean, easy swim.
Yeah, it's a solid company.
And guys, that was our episode on NVIDIA.
Now, if you like what you heard and have an opinion about our analysis, don't forget to go on Facebook or Instagram at 2028 Podcast and leave a comment, and we'll check them out and let you know what we think.
Let us know if you want us to do an analysis on a company. And who knows, it might just be featured in a later installment of the 2028 Podcast.
And guys, I'm Tizan.
And I'm Vince.
And this is the 2028 Podcast, and we're out.